Hello, my name is the Gaming Critic. I review video games with no regrets whatsoever. So I'm pretty sure all of you watching know the story between Naughty Dog and Universal Interactive Studios. But for those who don't, here's a quick recap of what happened after the release of Crash Team Racing. After the successful release of Crash Team Racing... Man, I love my new microphone. Naughty Dog had lost the rights to make Crash Bandicoot games, and many fans was sad and disappointed that Naughty Dog will no longer be making Crash Bandicoot games. But when you think about it, it was probably for the best. You see, with Naughty Dog not making Crash Bandicoot games anymore, they can now focus on other video games that they would like to make. And over the years, they've gone on to make some outstanding titles, such as Jak and Daxter, and the Uncharted series. But what does this mean for the Crash Bandicoot series? Well, 1 year passes, and Universal Interactive Studios needs to find someone to develop the next Crash game. Eurocon stepped up and gave us Mario Party. Oh, sorry. I mean, Crash Bash. Some people have complained that Crash Bash is just a copy clone of Mario Party. While I can understand what they're talking about, I'm gonna have to disagree. Because much like Crash Team Racing being inspired by Mario Kart, I like to believe that Crash Bash was inspired by Mario Party. Yes, the concept is roughly the same, but the layout style is completely different compared to Mario Party. So let's see if Eurocon can keep the momentum going forward. This is the review you've been waiting for. This is Crash Bash. Published by Sony Computer Entertainment and developed by Eurocon Entertainment Software, Crash Bash was released in 2000 and was released on PlayStation 1. The story begins with Aku Aku and Uka Uka arguing with each other on who is superior, good or evil. Uka Uka suggested they should fight each other, but Aku Aku says that the ancient gods will not allow it. That's interesting, because this is the only time that they brought up the ancient gods, and it's never mentioned in later installments. And also, it doesn't make sense why the ancient gods won't allow them to fight, because they technically did back at Crash 3. So they both agree that they will make up their own teams. Aku Aku notices that Uka Uka has too many players and challenges his confidence by making the teams fair. Uka Uka agrees, and Aku Aku selects Tiny Tiger and Dingodile. And whichever team collects the most trophies wins. And that's basically your story covered. I don't mind the intro, it's straight to the point and it's easy to follow. However, the story does feel underwhelming at times, and while it's cool to see Tiny Tiger and Dingodile in Crash's team, but as a creative point of view, it doesn't really make that much sense. Because remember, Tiger wanted to kill Crash with his pitchfork, and Dingodile wanted to make toast. Maybe you could have had Embryo joining Crash's team, cause after all, he did help them defeat Cortex back at Crash Bandicoot 2. Over at the main menu, and you can see Crash doing the chicken dance? What the fuck? Much like Crash Team Racing, Crash Bash offers adventure mode. Depending on which character you decide to play as, will determine the ending. If you play as the good guys, you get the good ending. But if you play as the bad guys, you'll get the evil ending. You have 8 characters to play as: Crash, Coco, Tiny Tiger, Dingodile, Cortex, Embryo, Koala-Con, and who the fuck is this? Rillaru? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Eurocon wanted Donkey Kong, but they couldn't get the rights to the character. So instead, they just made a terrible version of Donkey Kong in Rillaru. You could have had Ripperoo, Pinstripe, and Trophy, or even Engine, but you had to go with this piece of shit? What's really interesting is this is Rillaru's first and last time in a Crash Bandicoot game, which makes him the most forgettable character in the Crash Bandicoot series. In Adventure Mode, there's 4 levels to compete in, and once you collect all 4 trophies, you'll be able to fight a boss. The bosses in this game includes Papu Papu, the Baramator, the Komodo brothers, and a final boss being Nitrous Oxide. The gameplay structure is seeing the player playing 7 different types of party games. In each of the 7 types of party games, there are 4 levels. Each of the levels does play the same, but they all have different twists to make each level more fresher. The first level you come across in Adventure Mode is called Crash Bowl. The objective in this game is to hit the balls into your opponent's goal. The last man standing wins the game. There's other levels such as Polar Panic, where the only way to win is to knock off the opponent and be the sole survivor, and Pogo Painter. You hit the squares into colors and you hit the crates into points, and the highest score wins the game. Each character has their pros and cons to each game, so who you play as is important. Overall, most of the games are pretty fun to play. The designs of each level looks nice and the controls feel tight. But there is a huge problem that this game has. You have to win 3 times to get the trophy. 3 fucking times. Which makes the experience so repetitive. Grinding through each level just to win 3 times is absolute torture. You would hope that the level would end, but it just drags on, and the gameplay turns from pretty fun to pretty annoying. If it was a best out of 3, or you win at least once, then it would have been fine. When it comes to the difficulty in Crash Bash, this game is pretty hard. I'll go as far to say that Crash Bash is one of the hardest games I ever played when I was a kid. And adding in the winning 3 times to get a trophy, it does play an unfair advantage. Even playing multiplayer, it can still be irritating at times because of the goddamn difficulty. And because I failed so many times at this game as a kid, I freaking broke my controller, yelled at the television, and kicked the VHS video player. Oh, I miss the good old days. And this may come as a surprise to you, but get this. Out of all the games I've played and completed throughout my gaming experience, I have never beaten Crash Bash's Adventure Mode. I know, right? I'm just as shocked as you are. I've gained so much knowledge and skills during my video game journey, and yet, somehow, I still can't complete this game. Well, I guess you can't master at every video game, can you? Anyway, let's move on. If there is something that I really like about Crash Bash, is the soundtrack. It is generally because most of the soundtrack in Crash Bash is similar to the old Crash Bandicoot songs back in the day, but it sounds like an original song. It just sounds good. Outside of Adventure Mode, you can play in battle modes and participate in tournaments. And because this game is a party game, you get to play with your friends in multiplayer, even in Adventure Mode. I'll admit that playing this game solo can be boring, but playing it with your friends, it becomes a lot of fun. Overall, I can't really say anything too much about this game, because at the end of the day, it's just your average and typical party game. It's just one of those games where you can set up and play with your friends or your family all night long, and you'll have a lot of fun. I do like the level designs of each party game, the soundtrack sounds nice, and the story is simple that it doesn't become confusing. But however, with this game having a high difficulty and an unfair winning system, it's no wonder why this game isn't memorable. Because with the repetitive style that this game offers, it can get old pretty fast. So, Crash Bash gets 6 out of 10. And before you comment down below, a 6 out of 10 is still a good score. I'll still recommend this game to anyone, and you may have the same or different opinion about this game compared to mine. And that's it. That was the entire Crash Bandicoot series on consoles. If you missed out on any other Crash Bandicoot reviews, then you can check them all out in this playlist, which will be in the description box below. I may come back and review Crash Boom Bane, and I might do a special video regarding Crash Bandicoot in the future. But until then, I can confirm that the Crash Bandicoot review series is officially done. Until a new Crash game comes out, that is. But moving on to the next review, I was actually requested to review a specific game a while ago. And hey, I always love a challenge. Get it? Challenge? Cause the next game I'm going to review is Cuphead, and Cuphead is a pretty challenging game. You know, challenge, Cuphead. Well anyway, thank you for watching this review, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe today. My name's the Gaming Critic, telling you to keep calm and keep playing video games.